$1,800 every month for 15 years. This morning, the last one cleared. Balance $0. Loan closed. You finally own your home. But what you didn't own for the last 15 years was your time, your career choices, your financial flexibility. Every single one of them was quietly mortgaged. And that's exactly why your life completely changes the day that mortgage disappears. There is a number running in the background of your life right now, dictating your nervous system. It's the reason your eyes snap open at 2 a.m. It's the reason you swallow your pride and look down when your boss disrespects you. Society calls it the American dream. They call it a 30-year mortgage. Your body calls it exactly what it is, a state of chronic, low-grade survival mode. 72% of mortgage holders show clinical anxiety tied directly to their debt. And this is exactly what the financial system views as a feature. Because an anxious employee doesn't quit, an anxious homeowner doesn't take risks. For 3 decades, you pay a bank hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege of carrying a weight that erodes your health and your autonomy. The financial industry desperately hopes you never find out what happens the day that anchor finally drops. The day you sign a mortgage, you think you are buying a house, but the math tells a much darker story. You aren't just buying a home, you are mortgaging your career choices, your financial flexibility, and your time. But what happens when you finally break the chain? When that final payment clears, there are no fireworks. Instead, it triggers a violent psychological shift. The survival instinct shuts off, the bleeding stops, and cash flow tsunami is unleashed that can rewrite the next 20 years of your life. And this is what happens when you stop playing defense and start weaponizing your money. The day that final $1,800 payment clears, the financial gravity holding you down shatters. And suddenly, that capital is yours. To take home an extra $24,000 in clean after-tax cash, the average person has to grind for a massive corporate promotion they will likely never see. But you didn't get promoted. You didn't sacrifice your weekends to a side hustle. You just cut the leash off your neck. And this is where the math becomes dangerous. Take that exact same $1,800 and automate it into an S&P 500 index fund. At a painfully average historical rate, that newly freed cash mathematically engineers to $1.2 million over 30 years. You do not need a new income stream to build generational wealth. You just need to stop financing the bank's empire and start building your own. But here is the trap, and it's the reason most people never cross that finish line. The second that $1,800 becomes visible in your checking account, your lifestyle expands to devour it. The kitchen renovation you delayed, the car that's giving out, the luxury vacation you convinced yourself you earned. Lifestyle creep is a quiet predator that will fill every empty container you give it. If you don't automate the redirect before your brain even registers the cash is there, it will swallow your millions in a single gulp. But the biggest change had nothing to do with the money. If you survive the lifestyle creep trap, you unlock the real upgrade. For years, you told yourself you stayed in the stressful job because you liked the stability. You believed it, but the chain was always there. The mortgage required a payment. The payment required your income. The income required that specific job. When you owe the bank $500,000, your decisions can never be ambitious. They are strictly defensive. Your mortgage bought you a house at the cost of your obedience. But the day that debt clears, the invisible ceiling shatters. You no longer have a $2,500 monthly survival tax. You can take a 30% pay cut for the startup you actually care about. You can move across the country because you aren't held hostage by one zip code's job market. You realize how incredibly small you were living simply because the mortgage forced you to. You don't just get your money back, you get your leverage back. But this is the exact moment mortgage-free living stops being comfortable and starts being dangerous, because most people who reach this point make the exact same mistake. The Federal Reserve tracks wealth across the country, and hidden in their data is a massive gap. The average net worth for a household carrying a mortgage is $220,000. For mortgage-free households, it doubles. $450,000. Same economy, same job market, but an entirely different level of leverage. Most people spend their entire lives bleeding out just to pay off an asset, but the day the debt clears is the exact moment that asset finally starts working for you. You don't need to borrow against your house to get rich. You just need to use your new near-zero living cost to execute 3 strategic power moves. When you don't owe the bank $2,500 on the first of every month, your fear of failure vanishes. You can finally take the massive financial swings that salaried employees can't afford. You can bootstrap up a business. You can angel invest a friend's startup. You have the ultimate FU fund, because even if the investment goes to zero, nobody can take your roof. Move number 2, the tax haven max out. Instead of handing $24,000 a year to the bank, you violently redirect that cash flow. You instantly max out your 401k, your Roth IRA, and your HSA simultaneously. You aren't just saving money, you are starving the government of taxes, legally, compounding wealth in untouched, tax-free vaults. At this point, you are mathematically untouchable. You have outsmarted the tax code and eliminated your baseline living expenses. But the first 2 moves were just about protecting your money. The final move is how you permanently replace the system that kept you trapped in the first place. You take that freed up mortgage payment, stockpile it, and within a few short years, you buy your first rental property in cash. You don't take out a new mortgage. You don't ask the bank for permission. You become the bank. You start collecting the exact same passive rent checks you used to bleed out. That is how you use a paid-off home to play aggressively. But everything we just talked about relies on a functioning economy. What happens to that wealth when the market breaks? In 2008, we found out exactly what happens. During the crash, leveraged homeowners watched their equity collapse. The banks panicked, called in all the debt, and millions of families lost absolutely everything they had built. But mortgage-free homeowners retained their ground because you cannot get margin called on a paid-off house. The moment that debt clears, your home stops being a liability on a bank's balance sheet, and it becomes an impenetrable fortress. And that fortress isn't just for you. Everything shifts the moment you start looking at the people who come after you. The Urban Institute uncovered a staggering reality. Children who inherit debt-free assets do not just get a slight head start. They begin their adult lives 300% wealthier than those who don't. 300%. That is the absolute difference between a child who inherits suffocating obligations and a bank's relentless timeline, and a child who inherits a rock-solid foundation. When you pass down a fully owned asset, you're not just leaving them a house. You are handing them the one thing they can never buy back. You are handing them decades of their life back. You're giving them generational armor. But to build that armor, you have to survive the final trap the bank has set for you. They made the 30-year timeline so overwhelmingly long that they rely on you never trying to beat it. They want you to accept the monthly survival tax. They want you to stay obedient. But their math is fragile. Adding just one extra payment a year doesn't shave down your principal. It mathematically steals half a decade of your life back from the bank. Don't let the bank take another year.